So this is our error middleware. Now, as I told you before, in every enterprise application, we need to log the exceptions that are thrown in the application. So later we come back, look at the log, and see what are the areas of the application that we can improve. So in this lecture, I'm going to introduce you to a very popular logging library called Winston. So here's Winston on NPM. The current version is 2.4, and you can see there have been over 6.5 million downloads over the last month. It's a very popular and feature-rich library. So let's get started. Here in the terminal, npm install Winston. Again, note the version, so 2.4.0. Now, let's go to index.js and configure Winston. So on the top, first we need to load this module. So require Winston and store it in this object, Winston. Now this Winston is the default logger that is exported from this module. You can also create a logger manually, but using the default logger is sufficient for small to medium-sized applications. You may need a custom logger only if you're building a really large, complex application, and you want to have different loggers that behave differently in different parts of the application. So this logger object has what we call a transport. A transport is essentially a storage device for our logs. So Winston comes with a few core transports. They are console for logging messages on the console, file, and HTTP for calling an HTTP endpoint for login messages. There are also plugins for Winston. There are other NPM modules for login messages in MongoDB, in CouchDB, which is another popular NoSQL database. There's also a plugin for login messages in Redis, and Loggly, which is a very popular log analysis and monitoring service for enterprise applications. So this default logger that is exported from this module comes with one transport, and that is for login messages in the console. But here I want to show you how to add another transport for login messages in a file. So here on the top, we call Winston.add. Unfortunately, we don't have good IntelliSense here. Hopefully that will be improved in the future. So we pass Winston.transports.file. And as the second argument, we pass an object. Here we set a property, file name. Let's say logfile.log. Now, back to our error middleware. When we get an exception, we can use Winston to log it. So on the top, first we load Winston, constant Winston. We set that to require Winston. Now here, we call Winston.log to log the error. Now, as the first argument, we need to set the logging level. Logging level determines the importance of the message we're going to log. So we have error, which is the most important login message. Then after that, we have warn or warning. Then we have info. We're storing information in the log like connected to MongoDB. So these are not exceptions or errors. These are information about our application. We have verbose, debug for writing debugging information, and silly. Now, we can either pass the login level as an argument here, like error, and then set the error message, in this case, error.message, or we can use one of the helper methods. So instead of log, we can call error, then we don't need to pass the first argument. Now, optionally, we can also store metadata. So we can pass this error object, and every property we have in this error object will also be stored in the log. You will see that in a second. Now, to demonstrate this, let's go to genres.js. Here in the get genres route, I'm going to throw an error. So throw new error, could not get the genres. So let's imagine somewhere in the application, an error is thrown. With the current implementation, our error middleware will catch that exception. It will log it using Winston and return the 500 error to the client. Let's test this. So I'm going to run the application. Beautiful. Now back in Postman, let's send a GET request to the genres endpoint. All right, so here's our internal server error. Now, if you look in the console, you can see the details of this exception. So here we have error because we used Winston.error method. Here's the error message, could not get the genres. And below that, we've got the stack trace, which is part of the error object. So this is the console transport, which is configured on the default logger. Now, in our project, you can see here we have this new file, logfile.log. Here we have a JSON object with a few properties. Message is could not get the genres. We've got stack, which represents the stack trace. And if you scroll to the far right, you can see level is set to error. And here's the timestamp when the error occurred. So with this level, in the future, you can query the log file and perhaps extract only the errors or maybe only the information messages. So this is the big picture. We simply call Winston.error or one of the other helper methods. And depending on the transports that we have configured, Winston will log the given message. In the next lecture, I'm going to show you how to log to MongoDB.